Rumble still available, so there is a decision to be made here. I know which one I would make, but Rumble definitely one that you have to consider. It will not be considered, and Afreeca and I are on the same page.
Well, you get Fly's set here right away, so that's one question that you don't have to answer. And sure, it can be flexed, could be played by Lehens, could be played by Keen, but you always have the ability to fall back on this for Fly. It's a strong champion for him. He's currently undefeated on it, in fact. But this leaves the Kalista, right? And this is where the bans come through for Liiv Sandbox on the AD carry side of things. You take away the Ezreal, take away the Varus, and sure, they can get the Rumble or the set. But whichever they take, you get both the opposite and Kalista. So now you have a lot of control over the bottom side of the map. The prio is going to be big here for Liiv Sandbox.
Yeah, and if we're reading the meta right now and what teams like to do, are we just going to see Nocturne Diana?
Probably.
Is that going to be what we see here? Because Diana comes in, you get the AP jungler that comes out here, and you can pick up another AD laner if you'd like. Nocturne very high prio at the moment. So you also might want to take it away from the Nocturne Rumble combo, but we are seeing more and more AD carries. Take this Kai'Sa.
The reason why you see the Kai'Sa here is because you don't really want to end up going down into too deep down Leo's somewhat limited champion pool. In fact, it'll be his first Kai'Sa of the season. He's only played 4 champs. Senna, not something you can pick up here at this stage, because the support will be banned. So you kind of have to take the Kai'Sa here no matter what. He's not a player who likes to play Jhin, so just another option that we've seen some teams flex to when we do go down this sort of AD carry ban heavy style of draft. And you lose the Nocturne with this, potentially, but I think it's a safe choice. We'll see Lee Sin actually make it through this draft and end up getting picked up by Liiv Sandbox. Was banned both games of our previous series. Alistair now removed for the Kai'Sa. And let's see what Liiv Sandbox really want to build here, because you have strong bottom side control with this Rumble, with the Kalista. Rumble has long range engage, but there isn't a whole lot of synergy between these 3 champions in terms of how they operate in a team fight just yet. Whereas with Afreeca, you have Diana set, you have Kai'Sa who can follow up. They have a lot more synergy between what they've built in this draft so far. And Nocturne's still being completely ignored.
Yeah, I don't think that, as Liiv Sandbox, maybe you need to ban that away, although as you mentioned, the synergy issue is there a little bit. Although Nocturne Rumble feels pretty nice. You can get something that can dive on in terms of a support to go along with the Kalista. Maybe even the Galio that we just saw the last time could be really nice against Diana set. Kai'Sa.
Yeah, Galio can be great. Leona, I think, is a really strong option here too. You can shut down some of that aggressive dive. You have nice peel, you have long range engage with the Rumble in some of those skirmishes where it's not a grouped up fight. A lot of engage potential. De LeBlanc is actually really strong here too. For a lot of long range engage and poke and some execution you can have when the equalizer brings people low. She is so safe at assassinating those low health targets. So Leona does come through, as I was suggesting earlier. We don't have the support yet for the Kai'Sa now. It is going to be a face-up, so Braum is a nice response. Works really well in these dive-heavy, melee fights where you're going to have set Diana engaging in. A lot of extra power with this, and good against the poke. And the final pick we're looking for here is the second solo lane. It's tough to go into this face-up, but you already know there's a Lee Sin on the board. And, you do have to give up control. Like, your opponent will be able to counterpick you here. Will be the Viego.
Viego comes in. As you mentioned, there is a little bit of flexing that can happen, mainly between the set and the Viego at this point. But they'll have to wait and see what Liiv Sandbox want to respond to this Viego with. Holding the counterpick for Summit in the top side. He might play as Nar's most played of 5 games with a winning record. And it is looking like he will lock that in.
It's really hard to look for some sort of side laning champion that's going to have a lot of strong pushing power into this draft for Afreeca, because they can collapse on you so easily with this style of draft that they've taken here. and you are going to really struggle against either the Viego or the Set to actually really push that lane hard. The Set is going to end up going in the mid lane for Fly as we expected. See if that 100% win rate continues. Viego versus Gnar, not going to be comfortable. It's going to be based on, you know, the Gnar bar, oftentimes how that's going to go, but Viego has so much sustain, so much pushing power. You're really just hoping that somebody's going to scale up for those team fights later on, and he's going to need a lot of help if he's going to get fed early on. Birthday wishes for Spirit here in the audience.
Yeah, also that very nice sign of Croco. With the crocodile there, although Renekton was being banned this game, so we don't get to see that Croc at least. But here is the lineup of Afreeca. So we do once again see the Viego. A lot of Viego focus today alongside of these dive comps.
Yeah. I really do like it because of how much, when you get control over the map with this, if you get ahead, Viego can just soak every lane, he can push every lane, he's so powerful in that regard, and we do know what he's capable of in those scrappy team fights if he can get the resets in. The Kalista here and the Leona are so terrifying in the early part of the game that I'm very worried about how Afreeca is going to handle the first Drake fight, that first Herald, because both these teams are so early game focused. The Kalista gives you so much power in those first few objectives. The Kai'Sa will be great for, you know, when Diana starts to get a little bit stronger later on to follow up for that aggression. It's pretty even drafts, I think. You know, they both have different win conditions in team fights, but the Gnar is going to be great for late game engage. You've got long range poke. You can, if you catch any isolated targets on Afreeca, really win some early trades. And even in the later parts of the game, with Lee Sin, you have to be so careful as Afreeca how you're positioning. But on the other hand, Afreeca have a really great team fighting comp that's pretty easy to execute. So I don't give a very strong edge to either team here overall. It's just about how it goes.
We saw a crazy performance from Rascal yesterday on Lee Sin. If you missed that one, Fred and Brion were able to bring Gen G to game number 3, and then Rascal basically said, no, you're not allowed to win this series, actually. Let me just single-handedly die 4 people and kill the enemy AD carry multiple times, even when he was being focused. Some crazy Lee Sin play recently. As you mentioned, it was banned in the first couple of games we had today. Those were kind of blowouts, but we just did not get to see Lee Sin. And let's see what Fate can do, because Lee Sin is definitely one of these champions that has very high skill expression, but sometimes it falls flat, and sometimes you can solo carry the game.
The CC that he has, you know, to set up for kills for Croco, if we are ever going to see anything like that against the Set, which is so difficult, is limited to his Dragon's Kick. And that's going to, you know, require him to have a ward available, etc., to set up for that. So very difficult to have any kill pressure as the Lee Sin. Whereas with the Set Diana, you have a lot of kill pressure on the Lee Sin in several moments, especially post 6. So a lot of respect has to be shown for Fate here, or he will find himself falling further and further behind if he does get ganked. So that's something to keep an eye on. You can see the Gnar matchup on the top. Oh, hold that thought, though.
Just going. They're going to get the cleanse out of Leo right away. And it was very obvious when they were going to hit level 2, right? I mean, that was the second line of melee minions. They took them all down. And still, he was in range to get tethered there and to take a ton of damage and be forced to use the cleanse. So that is a very unfortunate trade for Afreeca.
He loses his cleanse and back, so he's going to lose a ton of experience here. The wave is pushing. Like, this is a disaster for the early game. We talked about Kalista having a good time in those early levels, but I don't think anyone's expecting them to crush this hard. You can actually see a roam for Effort meanwhile. Like, he's going up to look for a potential pick in the mid lane.
Yep. This is what Effort does. He gets prio, and then he roams immediately, every single time.
Yep,
we see it on the Thresh, and we're going to see it here on the Leona. I think Fly that did see him, rather. So,
yeah, he wanted to have the perfect angle to guarantee he could get the blade. If you go towards the brush, he won't be able to see you there, but you won't necessarily have the angle you're looking for to guarantee you can get behind him. Still, you know, I mean, he has these opportunities to make these potential plays because of that early exchange between Prince and Leo.
Okay, let's see how this one does work out. Trying to get the Conquer down. The stun is going to miss, and the teleport is out, but they're still going for the kill, and they still will be able to pick it up as Fate gets in there, and he's got vision now. The trading is still going on, but the Q will land, and Fate will at least be able to trade one back.
Yep, 1 for 1 here. First blood, though, you know, over to the side of Afreeca. Going to be a nice start here. You really have to respect the power of Viego in this matchup. And you could see that even with the teleport from Fate, which he does lose, so now they have to swap lanes to actually try to share the gold a little bit. But when you do have even that exchange with the Lee Sin, like, Keen trades back very nicely. It's actually really scary what he's able to do in these early levels because he has so much sustain.
All right, here we go. Trying to set up a kill on the bottom side. Dread, very active around the map. Looks top, looks bot. But Braum, especially at level 4, if you don't land your Q, you're not really going to be able to set much up. Also, a lot of pings are coming down. I mean, they have wards on the Krug, so Prince and Effort are like, this is suspicious. Why didn't he just go down and start clearing his jungle again? Where could he be? The answer is in the bottom lane.
Yep, they did not fall for what was a pretty elaborate bait there by Leo and Lehens. You know, knowing that Cleanse is down and that Leo is walking that far forward, Effort would normally be tempted to Zenith Blade in, and then that could have been disastrous. But with the warning, as you mentioned, you just don't make that mistake. You don't look for that play. As Kroko is going to take some of this jungle here on the blue side and try to wrap around onto Keen.
Yeah, little cheeky play, you know. It's using this information very nicely on both sides of the map. You know, your bottom lane stays safe, and your jungle is able to steal a camp away.
He does not have 6, and he does not know that Dread is...
They should go on a Fly here. I don't know why Fly moved up that far away when Fate hits level 6. Felt safe, and actually a ton of damage comes up. It's actually an elaborate bait all in the end, apparently. As Fly is able to help pick up that kill.
That was very close to going a different way. But yeah, a bit of a mistake there on the positioning. And it's going to end up being Fate who dies first. Meanwhile...
All right, we got a trade coming down here, and this is going to be Effort getting stunned up and exhausted. With the teleport coming in as well, I mean, all he had to do was flash away, and he's totally safe.
Yeah, that's going to be a little bit painful. Have to take the long walk back. Going to lose quite a few minions, actually, in the interim. And at the same time, you know, it's still a Kalista here on the bottom side of the map who's going to be very happy to continue to push. So this ends up being pretty unfortunate. The state of the game here is quite a lot of aggression on both sides, right? And we'll see where this first Drake fight ends up happening because, or actually it's just not going to happen. I was going to say when they end up starting the first Drake, because I don't think Afreeca actually have control over the map enough to rotate in there. And with a bot prio is so valuable in these early objectives. We talked about it so much with Kalista, and she just keeps getting through the draft. She's so strong right now. And we have so many players in the LCK who are so well versed on the Kalista. You know, not actually normally in Prince's wheelhouse, but you can see he's clearly a master of it. Gets enough prio, gets that early objective. And that's a pretty massive lead here. It's one of the better ones to get solo, the Mountain.
Yeah. We're going to take a look here at the replay actually on the play. So Dread is here, and I guess Fly feels very confident because of that.
So Kroko was coming in thinking that he's going to look for the setup play, so they're trading aggressively, whereas Fly is also trying to set up the lie, the bait there. So ended up being kind of funny how it ends up trading, because both junglers were kind of sitting there and hoping for the mid laners to set up the play for them, but neither jungler knew the other was coming.
Braum, very strong against the Kalista, as you can clearly see. Part of the reason I think why this Braum was picked up was to help the Kai'Sa get through the lane. And we are seeing it. Obviously, the prio is going the way of Prince and Effort, but the CS is very comparable. And if Kai'Sa can make it through the laning phase and into the mid game, alongside of this composition, I feel like she should be in a pretty good spot.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to see this once again. Kroko's back over here, but Fly is still set, and now he's got his ultimate. Not only does he have his ultimate, but he has a ward here. Dread is a little bit too far away to make an aggressive play. Because Effort spent so much time roaming, you know, the lane pushed back, but they're able to catch the wave. CS stays even. The prio has really only gotten them the Drake. You know, they got the early cleanse out, but that's come back online now. See if they can get anything more. Is trading up here once again.
Yeah. Gnar into the wall comes out. Keen is totally fine. Take a look at the CS difference after the early kill that was given. All while this is happening, Liiv Sandbox are taking the Rift Heralds. I mean, basically for free. Nobody's over here. Nobody's even checking this, and they just stole that right from under the noses of Afreeca.
Yeah, that was a little bit rough that happens that way, and I think Summit was trying to look for a bit of an out there at the top side of the map at the same time, so it's a little bit awkward. You lose your Gnar bar. You don't want to rotate over there. You've also lost kind of prio with that exchange there, so Keen can push you through. But they didn't have anybody grouped up, not at all, not at any case, right? Like, there was nobody who was actually even looking to check for that, and you knew Kroko was just nearby. Fly saw him, so it's hard for the bottom side to do anything, but I think the top side here definitely could have tried to group up a little bit more. Either way, ends up being pretty unfortunate that Liiv Sandbox gets away with another free objective, and it's going to really even up the gold deficit they have right now. Just kind of puts them ahead in every regard. The top lane is still an issue, but what these two champions offer into team fights later on is very different. Sometimes the Gnar can actually win you a team fight on his own, whereas Viego needs a lot more setup. So not, being a little bit behind in CS here, not as important as it would be in another matchup. So they're just going to toss this in the mid lane straight away.
Yeah, Fate's going to pick up so much money, actually, 480 gold. He just got more than a kill and a half off of just dropping that objective in there and picking up all the plates, which normally wouldn't necessarily be very easy against the set, but because of the way it went with Fly backing and Fate picking up the Rift Herald instead of Kroko,
yeah,
he's able to just drop it down and get a huge chunk into that mid lane turret.
He was the only one who could safely grab the eye, so he grabbed it, and that was where they decided to put it. That sometimes does happen, but like you said, the fact that he was able to just completely get all the value out of it is pretty absurd, and Keen's going to get collapsed on here. That's not going to last forever.
Yeah, the thing is also, I mean, he could have been way down the lane, right? So they're just kind of have to give up at that point, as Dread finally is going to be able to clear out this ward that was there for quite a while.
And he gets one plate. That's all he's going to be able to secure on the top side. Is forced away now. A lot of posturing here on the top side of the map. It's not a shock, considering the two players we're looking at here and how this bottom side of the map is kind of in a forest for Afreeca. They're doing quite well considering the circumstances, but there's not a lot of plays to make here with Fate's call on the Leona. And, the vision control of the bottom side of the map has been so good for these two players that it's really hard to surprise them with anything. They've just played it so safe. Dread is somewhat nearby, but I think this should be just fine to walk out of here.
Couple of early skirmishes over the objectives, and now finally we get something going as Kroko comes down, puts down the equalizer, but they can't even get the kill onto the Hens.
But, I mean,
he flashes away.
The Hens has to leave, so you have control over the Drake now. Fate's coming back in, he has teleport. And it's going to be really difficult for Afreeca to actually fight for this one now without their support.
That was a cute little way to check the pixel brush, by the way. If you stand far enough away, the dragon will actually leash onto the Diana, who is closer to the dragon. Even though Liiv Sandbox don't have vision, the dragon will still follow it. So they know that, okay, enemy jungler's here, or the enemy mid laner, someone's in there. And they use that to just go ahead and group up and take it down.
The ward coverage is just so good overall here for Liiv Sandbox, and it has been on the bottom side of the map. Even with that control ward in the tri-brush, they've just had so much information up until this point that when you make a play like that, when you have the Leona rumble, just so difficult to actually fight against that in this early game. And the Solar Flare didn't even land, but it's still just so much damage that guarantees you a second Drake. So now 2 Drakes to 0. And, this early game comp, I mean, I don't want to say that the only part of this comp is early game, but the early game bot lane is really getting its ultimate value. You didn't snowball it as hard as we saw, in our previous series where Deft just runs away with the game when it's not even a real game of League of Legends. But
yeah,
realistically, this is about what you should be able to get from the Kalista, and Prince is doing it great.
Yeah, and this is kind of what I was alluding to, right? Prince and Effort. They get this lane that can make some waves in the early game, but also I think a lot of their power, just as a team, will come from this, as the top side of the map a little bit stronger here for Afreeca, and that's exactly what we're seeing. A very fed Diana, I think Dread has a lot of ability to try to take over this game, and he will be looking with double buff to actually reach the top side and look for Summit. As more aggressive trades come in, Dread is going to sneak into the brush.
It was great movement from Summit.
Okay. Flash comes out. Will
Moonfall.
deny any follow-up.
Yeah, the Moonfall just completely whiffs there. Really great dodge there by Summit on the stun from Keen. If that lands, I think this is a completely different story. Now Croc was up here.
Okay, equalizer in, and Keen does take a hefty amount of damage, and you see Dread is nowhere to be seen. Keen just trying to use every ability that he has, but the flash comes in, and one more Harpoon will do it. Krocko will take down Keen in a very well-executed gank.
Yeah, really nicely timed, wrapping back around there, knowing that Summit is low and that Keen is going to continue to pressure. He has flash, super well executed. And they're utilizing this Rumble pick so well. He's got a Night Harvester now online, and that makes chases like this so much easier. As the Kai'Sa will become more and more powerful as the game goes on. Like, I don't want to, you know, underestimate what she's capable of. I don't want to say like, well, yeah, the Kalista has done so well that the other side of the coin on the bottom lane is not doing well, because they're actually doing fine. They lost 2 objectives, but the Kai'Sa is still scaling up. You know, she's going to get her Kraken Slayer fairly soon. And she will be able to do so well once we have those 5v5 group up fights with the Diana, with the set. So Afreeca are behind in a little bit of gold. They're behind in those 2 objectives, but they are absolutely able to come back into this game with just one well-executed team fight.
Fate is getting really close to this one. He is the Lee Sin, and it looks like Afreeca just want to back off and pick up the objective as they do group up and pick up the eye here, now moving towards the mid lane.
Yep, should be able to defend this turret just fine. Gonna leave Summit to his own devices on the top side of the map. He's going to get a little bit of extra gold that's going to force Keen to rotate back. Would be perfect here if Liiv Sandbox had another Drake to fight for right now with that teleport advantage, but sadly it's not going to spawn for another minute and a half. So they're just going to group up and grab a turret. They actually send Fate to side lane on the bottom side of the map, while Kai'Sa and Braum, Leo and Lahencia are rotating back in. So it's a very nice control over the map that Liiv Sandbox have. And that's going to, you know, lead to Drake control unless Afreeca can make a big play here right now while they're grouped up. And teleport will not be up for Keen in time for that Drake to spawn, even though it is, you know, 70 seconds away here. They get another turret.
Yeah, it's a couple of big objectives. Even going to deny some CS down here. Fate picks that all up. And yeah, Afreeca are just going to be catching waves at this point in time. Leo, without a support, needs to back away now that he doesn't have a turret anywhere nearby. He's going to have to play that a lot more carefully. Dread with the second Rift Herald. He's trying to find a lane to push this down. And really the only lane is top. I mean, the bot and the mid lanes are going to be pushed in. A lot more so, especially because there isn't a turret to push back. And the players have to sit farther back in the lanes, so they can't exactly get that pushing power. Although Dread is going to move in here and maybe drop it down now. Still got some time on it.
Would be really well-timed for this dragon fight. Efforts slowly rotating back in. Like I mentioned, Summit has teleport, so he's going to stay here and try to get a turret before the fight ensues. The timing of this is so good for this teleport advantage. Summit is so happy with this. He's going to have to get his Narbar up, though, once he does come into this fight. Herald's down. Watch the Wombo combo. Watch Dread and Fly in this fight, because they are the ones to watch for. They can completely smash the entirety of Liiv Sandbox with just one combo, so you really have to play around that here, and the vision advantage is theirs.
Summit is not backing down even after getting slowed. Liiv Sandbox very aggressively believe they can take this fight, especially with the Mega Narbar coming in here. Let's see, the mist is set up. Keen is looking for picks.
The flank.
Hence, he's always checking for it, but it is a Lee Sin, so it could happen. That is a massive solar flare right with the equalizer on top of it, and Fate gets him the back line, just trying to assassinate Lahens, and he's able to flash away to safety afterwards. Effort sets up another kill, but actually maybe going a little bit too far this time around. Was feeling himself a little bit, and for a good reason. And now we have Keen. He's pretty strong here on the front line. You gotta respect him, even though for now he's only the Leona. So he will be able to ult in maybe a little bit too far. Stuns back, trying to help and peel for his team. Dread goes in the front line, and he's able to peel as well. And Keen is just going like a madman as Leo's able to snipe down Summit as well. And Afreeca with patience are able to turn this fight around.
Patience is the best way to put it. It was such a well-fought, extended team fight with a comp that doesn't extend into team fights very well, but Leo was protected super well in this fight, despite all of the best efforts we saw here from Fate to lock him down. Watch how Fate flanks here and looks for Leo. He uses Lehens to get to Leo the first time as he gets in here with a kick, Qs to him, and then gets on top of Leo, but Leo kites back. The rest of the front line here for Afreeca is just playing out the longer game, knowing that actually Keen will win this. Now they try to use, the second time Fate tries to use Keen to actually close the gap to get onto Leo, but Leo is always exactly where he needs to be in this fight. He gets pushed away, but look at Lehens, he's there to save him, and Leo just does so much.
And all the while that's happening, Dread goes in, gets a 3-man moonfall, and snipes one member, gets everybody low. And he, you know, it was very well played for the entirety of the Afreeca lineup, but sometimes, man, Keen and Dread put their heads together, and you're just able to get stuff like that.
The positioning of Leo was so good, and so many of Fate's resources were used to try to lock him down. I wonder how the fight would have looked if instead of trying to chase down a really well-positioned Kai'Sa, who wasn't really doing that much damage at that point, if he had actually turned onto Dread, I think the fight might have actually looked a little bit different. But you always have to respect the Moonfall, and Afreeca don't win this fight to their traditional win condition of the crazy combo. It was actually just a really patient, great extended team fight, and that's a worrying sign for Liiv Sandbox. You know, they didn't just lose a fight because the combos came through, and it was the power of set, the power of CC, and the dive that comes with a Kai'Sa. It was actually just really good play from Viego and the slow play from Dread.
That's the thing. I mean, when these fights break down, you got skirmishers like Kai'Sa, like Viego, obviously, that are going to just love those scenarios. They're not going to love this, though. The perfect position for the equalizer. His effort now goes in, and the Fate's call will bring him out. Fly trying to continue this fight. Fate rather thinking about continuing onto Fly, but will not go for it.
Fly didn't have that much grit, but he really wanted to hit that haymaker in the choke. Not sure about this one, Keen.
Trying to get there on the front line. There's the kick that does come in. Dread now able to follow up, but that is a massive gnar into the wall, but it's just a huge skirmish going back and forth, and the damage from the Rumble is gigantic as everybody groups up for that one, and this time it's Liiv Sandbox's fight to take.
Definitely a massive overextension here for Afreeca Freecs. They didn't have the cooldowns to continue to actually push that issue. When Fly had already just used, you know, that haymaker right before, he wasn't able to do a whole lot at the beginning of that exchange when we did see Keen walk back in, and in a choke like that, Rumble is going to do so much damage, whether it's with Equalizer or with just his Flame Spitter here. So it starts off with that engage with Equalizer, then the turn comes through, and you can see that Fly is trying to really turn this into an amazing fight for them, but it's a nice disengage. Fate's call comes through, and then they come back in a second time, and this is when Keen really overextends. He takes so much damage in this fight that he can't actually be a part of it anymore. Doesn't have the same ability to sustain. Someone has a massive Gnar bar, and it's just an easy cleanup from here. Like, you just don't have the cooldowns anymore, and you let the Gnar bar charge. Should have just cut your losses and walked away after Set, you know, was able to push them out.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, that's going to be pretty big here for Liiv Sandbox. They take down the Baron. And now with teleports coming in, they're really pressing the issue, trying to take away some of Afreeca's skirmishing power. They want to take objectives here. They want to further their lead. And let's see if they can do that. They're going to get to work on this turret.
Summit, once again, has teleport advantage, can come in at any time. Keen cannot stay the same. He has to stay here, which means they're getting value in 2 lanes right now in this 4-1 push. Finally, some resources committed to deal with Summit, but that means, you know, with this next Baron wave coming through, you're going to lose this turret no matter what. Liiv Sandbox, you know, really getting the most efficiency out of this Baron as they can. With everybody alive on Afreeca, you don't get this much value usually, but it's super well played. And the fact that Gnar has a charged up bar or could have a charged up bar at any moment and has teleport means that you really have to respect this as Afreeca. You can't engage onto this. Even though you have an engaged comp, it's just so terrifying to even try to 5v4 while Summit's in the other lane because he could show up during that extended fight.
Yeah, slow and steady is the way here for Liiv Sandbox. They're not overextending. They have, you know, they have the Equalizer, which is actually going to help them take objectives very well. But other than that, decently low range, especially if they don't have Gnar in the lane with them. So they're just able to push a couple of turrets, and now they're going to go for the Cloud Drake, it is going to be Cloud Drake Soul Point. And there's not much that Afreeca can do about this. They will just have to give it away.
Yep. The Kalista damage is pretty insane. Clear through that one in the blink of an eye. And with no other objectives on the map for Afreeca to take, they just have to sit back and lick their wounds. You see Keen is cleaning up the side lane, and they're grouping up to try to get some vision control on the top side of the map. But Liiv Sandbox in such a great position in this map right now. In this game, I should say. I always say map, as if anyone who watches LCK knows.
Not incorrect. It is Summoner's Rift.
Yes.
After all.
Just commentate a lot of video games where we say map instead of game.
Yeah. You can say map if you want, Wolf.
And it's
I won't judge you.
We still have best of series in here, so that's even a conversation that we have instead of saying game. Because in a lot of other places, we only do the BO1s.
Yeah.
Been a bit of a hot topic recently, but I'm not going to get into it here on this broadcast. And, you know, the situation for Afreeca is quite dire. The execution of this next team fight, which, you know, is so far away for them too, gives them a little bit more time to farm up a little bit more. You know, Kaisa has a stopwatch right now. She's looking for a third item. But you have to have a really strong engage. That's the whole name of the game with this composition. And you need to also know when to walk away from a fight. Because that one fight where they won the extended fight with Keen, that's an anomaly. Viego doesn't normally get to carry a fight like that. I mean, he has Sterox, he has his Divine Sunder. He's very powerful as a champion. He's level 14 in this game, but there's so many ways for him to get burned down with the composition Liiv Sandbox have when he's in range of a Kalista, when he's in range of a Rumble,
yeah,
and all the engage tools that Liiv Sandbox have.
And every single time, Effort goes in first, and we see Fly trying to engage, trying to do the combo. It's just Fate's call for the counter. And, you know, we talked about the draft a little bit. The set first pick comes in. It's immediately responded to with Kalista. And now a couple of times in a row, you know, we're beginning to see this pattern as Summit kind of in an unfortunate position as it's going to be 1v2. And the damage is pretty large from the two of these guys. The Gnar does go into the wall.
Can he live here?
Oh, the stun is not going to reach. And he will actually be able to get away scot-free, especially with the rotation coming in.
That is insane that he gets out here. Doesn't even have to flash. And that is massive he gets out of here. Gets to keep his flash. Now he's got teleport, so can rejoin as soon as he heals up if he needs to. Come in instantly, which is not going to happen because Afreeca know that he has teleport. They're not going to try to take a 5v4 fight or even try to catch anybody isolated on the map. Unbelievable he gets out of that. It's like made of butter. Completely escapes unscathed. A lot of resources for Afreeca, you know, committed to actually look for that pick. So now they've got to back off and remove some of that vision. Look for the mid-prio here. We're still a minute away from the Baron. And we might not see a fight until that next Drake spawns. So again, just trying to get a little bit of extra gold here for Leo specifically to get that third item. In fact, he's going back right now.
Yeah, and you know, we talked about the ability to engage and try to get into the backline here for Afreeca, but at this point, with all the items that Liiv Sandbox have on all their members, who are you even trying to jump on? You could say the Kalista, but he has Guardian Angel now, and he has massive amount of peel that can come out from his teammates to try to help him out, so it's not going to be easy, even if you do get into a backline to assassinate anybody. It's just going to have to be straight up, you know, going in the front door, and that's not going to be easy when you're this far behind.
Yeah, I think, you know, normally you'd say that you could maybe try to collapse onto Rumble when he's looking for an equalizer follow-up if you can avoid the solar flare, but he's got Zhonya's, so it's really hard, and you have to respect this group up around the Baron because they can clear this so insanely fast right now.
Uh-oh.
It's aggressive.
Mahans is pretty far out there, and they throw him behind as the kick as well is pretty big. The solar flare against Zhonya's, though, and Effort's taking a lot of damage. Trying to get out of this one now, but they are going to lock him down. Summit gets an R to the wall, picks up a kill, but actually Fly tries to make something of it, and finally front to back comes in. Keen trying to pick off one member, Y1. Can he actually do it? His Fate is going into the backline, able to assassinate the Braum, but everything behind him is falling to pieces.
He's trying to see if he can get Leo here.
Prince trying to hop away from this one. He will be able to get away from the set, but not from the Viego. As Fate is just a one-man army at this point.
Yeah, the stopwatch buys time for Leo, but they're not able to catch Fate in the end, so You know, 1 man versus 2 is where we stand at the end of that fight. Super well executed by both sides, but the second part of the fight where Afreeca were able to re-engage was by far the best. Liiv Sandbox at the end there, trying to pick up the pieces, you know, with Summit having that Gnar into the wall. They're not able to turn. And I don't think this composition needs to engage hard like this with Fate's call, but they were so desperate. But this gave Fly the first opportunity to have a really nice angle in the fight. And you could see the desperation here. Summit goes in, uses the Gnar, but there's a Moonfall there to lock him in place. And then it's just an easy front-to-back team fight here with the Kai'Sa after that all happens. Fate is the hero, as you say. He's able to get the Q here in onto Lehens, and then is able to thread the needle here onto Leo. Watch this happen. It's actually nuts. Boom. How does he do it? Stopwatch is perfect, but it only buys time.
Yeah.
This is some high-level stuff.
It was right as the minion was dying, as if he knew he was going to be able to line that one up. And now, you thought the fighting was over, you were wrong. So we got Narbars reaching completion. That is a gigantic equalizer, trying to use that as the kick comes in. Fly with the big haymaker, but he can't survive forever. And that's going to be the Cloud Soul going the way of Liiv Sandbox. They're looking for more, actually, with the Solar Flare that comes in, the flash and the slow from the house. And Dread will be able to run for now, but the chase here from the side of Liiv Sandbox.
That movement speed's pretty big.
There are no slaps. They're trying to turn it around, though, as Leo's getting in the back line, and he's got Viego to back him up. They're trying to assassinate everybody, and the tanks of the team are actually doing a really good job of buying time, but can they do it 2v3? Is the question, as effort's gonna go down, and you just can't fight against this Viego and this Kai'Sa right now.
He has to somehow execute the Kai'Sa again here, Fate. He has his Resurrection available, but he just can't get past Keen. Croco's gonna try to collapse back in. He's got his Equalizer again. Cloud Soul's pretty strong.
He wants to fight. He wants to get in there. I'm not sure if he can do it 1v2 though.
Stopwatch is good here. Leo's coming back in.
Leo's coming in, and oh man, the sustain is just ridiculous.
I think the only way you win this fight is if Fate kills Leo. I don't think there's any way you're ever gonna kill a very fed Viego at this stage in the game. You know, otherwise here when you're looking for the Equalizer to collapse in, it's just not gonna happen. It's just too hard to pull it off. Keen exactly where he needs to be. Leo also on a very long leash, walks super far away from the fight, so he's completely safe until that re-engage comes through. If you can kill the Kai'Sa first, you can win the 2v1 against the Viego, but otherwise it is just not going to happen. Now they're looking for a Baron play here, but everyone's respawned. This is such a crazy game. I love it.
Yeah, this is awesome. As here we go, the Baron's going down, but Liiv Sandbox, everybody's here. Trying to go for the fight now, as no smite will come in from Liiv Sandbox because Croco is still dead. And as we get the knock up here from the Braum, Summit is left to die. Nobody can get in there to help him, and now it's a push coming out from Afreeca with the Baron.
The Solar Flare tried to save him, tried to help slow down the rest of Afreeca Freecs. He almost had his Gnar to set up for at least some damage and slowing down the push. This Equalizer will do just that, and we'll be up very quickly with the Cloud Soul, but I don't know if they're going to be able to defend this. Not without Summit, not without that strong engage. Not a lot of range here for Prince to poke at this either. He has to wait as the inevitable crashes down. Will walk away, actually, not going to look for anything further.
Yeah.
There's no objective to fall back to, so they can buy some items and regroup to look for another inhibitor, but I think Liiv Sandbox are very happy with the fact that they don't have to try to 4v5 to defend their base without an R, as this fight was absolutely insane. Look at Fate. He is trying his hardest to carry this game. He's doing such a great job. He gets that pick, they get the Drake, and on the chase here, it's a really nice avoid on the Solar Flare. And then Afreeca are ready to turn this around once they get into the brush.
Yeah, I really liked this turn.
Look at the Braum play. It's so excellent, and Leo comes right on top of Prince. It's perfectly executed there. The setup between the bot duo is so fantastic. And I don't know if we're going to get a zoom forward on what happens next, because there's a lot of fighting here. This leads to the Baron start, and then the crazy play we saw ensue right after this with Summit. I guess we're not going to take a look at that, but
yeah.
They respawn here, they regroup, they are going to push with this inhibitor down with the super minions.
I mean, they're not, okay, here we go. Breaking off maybe to the top side. I thought they were just going to push 5v5 down the mid lane. That was pretty interesting, but yeah, they're going to break off. Look for some other objectives.
Baron buff is off in 1 minute, Elder Drake still with 2 to go. So Afreeca need to be careful about overextending here You know, they have that Viego in mid that's going to push super hard and very quickly towards the base. So Liiv Sandbox can't stay around here too long. Not to mention that Keen does have that teleport. This is a knife's edge both teams are walking right now because Liiv Sandbox have such great engage when Summit has his bar complete. So you need to respect that.
Yeah. They do have great follow-up, but we're seeing in a couple of these fights that the potential for the Kai'Sa and the Viego to go kind of hand in hand and jump into a backline and just take everybody out with not much recourse is pretty insane. We see part of the reason why they did go for that Viego last pick.
There's a few wards behind Afreeca Freecs as well that Fate could teleport to. He can't teleport while he's near the Viego or he'll be interrupted, but that's something to consider. I mean, if he comes into the backline and catches Leo, that could be lights out. They're going for the engage.
They're going for Dread. They're trying to assassinate the Diana, but at the end of the day, they're just going to have to use the Fate's call. Dread does get pretty low, and they get the teleport out of Keen. Meanwhile, Fate is able to hold on to his. So at the end of the day, Liiv Sandbox pretty happy about that
massive
exchange.
trade right before the next Drake is going to spawn here, the Elder Drake. Now they've got time to clean up this mid wave. Big, recall phase here for Afreeca means they can actually go get more vision control. They already have control over the pit with the control ward. They have a ward in the river, but they can actually even deeper ward the left side of this Elder Drake pit right now. Grab this blue and group up. This is very likely going to be the fight that decides the game. This is anyone's fight to take. Summit has teleport. His Gnar is out right now, so he's going to have to be very careful about how he comes back into this fight because he's going to need to rebuild a new bar. And that gives Afreeca a really nice window to fight here. They weren't the first to the Drake pit, but it hasn't spawned yet. They get here before that. This is such a tense game. 28 kills.
Okay.
Teleport's in.
Yeah, teleport is in. And Fate, he's on the bottom. There's a control ward that is going to spot him here if he moves even a step farther. He's literally right on the edge. Somehow he knows exactly the vision range. Looks like he might teleport back into the fight.
Maybe it's just going to have to spend some time clearing and then come back in.
Yeah.
This is such an awkward moment. The power of that inhibitor is huge here for Afreeca. He's looking for the clear. Afreeca need to be decisive.
Yeah. Narvar is here, and Summit says get away. Even though it is 4v5, they would have to wait for the teleport to come in if Liiv Sandbox really wanted to fight.
So great to stall out the Snarbar, though. This is so massive for Afreeca. That's the only real great engage tool that Liiv Sandbox have, and it's gone now. Goodbye.
Yeah.
Now they're going in. Such a great stall out.
Summit waiting, and we are going to see, actually, Lee Sin on the top side. They're going to get the stun down. He has to escape. And back onto the Elder Drake we go. Summit here, they're trying to get on top of him. That is fly right into the back line, but the equalizer is pretty good. But Fate in the back line, trying to get it done as Leo is trying to take down Summit now. It has just been a massive engage into that back line. Keen trying to go 1v5 at this point in time, but he absolutely cannot. As Liiv Sandbox stay as a ball, and they will not be dominated and picked apart this time around, as now teleports come out and Liiv Sandbox want to take the game.
They're going to go to end the game. Keen's coming up here right now to try to trade
He
it
wants
back.
to end the game.
Yeah, I mean, they've got an inhibitor up here, so there's no way, there's no way Keen can actually end this. He just simply cannot. Summit goes back, and he's going to have to back off. The timing of this was really unfortunate, just kind of not having that in his mind in terms of the respawn. Even if it isn't up, I don't think you win this exchange, but he has to try something. That was such a great fight from Summit, though. Without his Narbar, he gets on top of Leo.
Okay, yeah, he's not going to be able to get back there on time. So there you have it, Liiv Sandbox. They're going to take down this crazy brawl of a game. Somehow, some way, the Nexus will fall. And it was close down to the wire. There were so many times where it looked like Afreeca would just run away with it, but nope, Liiv Sandbox come ahead.
What a fresh breath of fresh air.